politics has been going on far too long. Far too long it's been going on because people have not questioned certain things. They're just saying, that don't sound right. But we had an opportunity to question, to find out, to see if these people are really going to be active or have they already been proactive in these areas. They talking about pushing, in different streams or different situations to where they can make a change for people. That's important. Like I said, once again, we appreciate the time. They got cards. They're looking up.
May I get my card out?
Yeah, you can get your card out. So if anybody wants a card, they can get your card. You can even leave a stack on the back table. Okay, so let's get to this right here. I just wanted to make sure the brother told you. You told me about the sister wanted to come and she wanted to share something. I think this is a good time for her to do it. I appreciate that. Okay. So this is what we are going to be discussing because this is serious. Trauma is serious. And we're talking about experiencing a trauma can change the way a person perceives the world. How many of us agree with that? Trauma can change the way we perceive the world and how we have perceived the world. And some of us have been in continuous traumas. Trauma ain't just necessarily a one-time situation. I want to read the body of this information here. It says, trauma can come in many forms and whether caused by a single event or by a repeated exposure. That experience and perspective sharpens the way a person feels, thinks, and behaves. Trauma could happen to anyone. Anyone. At any age. See, at any age. Because I know myself, I experienced trauma at 5 years old. Things that happen to us emotionally as traumas, a lot of times they're sticking in your mind like nothing else. You remember, when you got a whooping or something like that. You might have got hit by a car. Could have been a death in the family. Could have been the way somebody talked to you that you really respected. Just as a youngster, a young child is coming up. Somebody could have been felt on in an inappropriate way. People could have been lack of economic resources when they were coming up as a child. And they had to go to the next door neighbor and get some food to eat or something like that. And trauma can be post. That means when it actually happens, you may not feel nothing. But in the later years, it's growing with you and you reflect and look back on it and it starts affecting you at that point in time. How many people had to go next door and get some sugar? How many people thought that was just the norm? Get some sugar, get some butter, get some milk for the people next door. Why? Because we didn't have it. We just thought that was the norm, everything was okay. But as we kids, you get older and we look back on it, we say we was in bad shape. I'm saying, we say we was in bad shape. We had to go get some butter from next door, people next door, some bread. But people had loving hearts back then and they didn't mind because they understood it in that particular type of way. It says understanding the definition of trauma and increasing your awareness of the specific trauma a person has experienced will help you better understand not only how they've been impacted, but how to respond appropriately to their behaviors as well. Behavioral trauma. All right. As you sharpen your understanding of their experience, you are strengthening your relationship and making future interventions that much more successful. That level of trust is critical to trauma-informed care and in and out of the person's a personal session such as this. And it allows you to communicate effectively while calming escalating behavior. Calming escalating behavior. Some people just thought you were always upset and you always wanted to fight about something. I found out some people were emotionally upset because they was born short. How many of us know that? How many of us know that just because you was born short, you had problems because for some reason somebody, the bigger person, wanted to pick on the shorter person all the time? And so that made you have to be a little bit more aggressive in order to maintain your ground. And that carried on through life and through relationships that you may have found yourself in. Sometimes you might have to come in, you might let them go like, I'm a lion up in there. You're like, where that coming from? It's coming from DMX right there. The little short guy right there, you hear his voice, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, what is he doing? I don't know if this is short man's complex, but that's what I heard.
The short man complex.
But I know I've been dealt with people like that, and I have to try to find out what's wrong with him, man. Oh, you think you big and bad? No, Allah made me this way. What are you talking about? I was just born 6 feet. I didn't say we can go no place and order height. Say, yeah, we want to be this tall, we want to be that tall, we want to be this big. No, Allah made you. It says here. It says this guide will help us. It says a deeper awareness of key trauma-related concepts. A greater understanding of trauma affects behavior. A greater understanding. And when we talk about de-escalation, de-escalation can help you avoid potentially dangerous situations. Sometimes you gotta step back. But you got to be able to put mechanisms in a way for you to step back. Because sometimes we'll feel that we need to challenge the situation. Some people ended up in places they didn't want to be, so that was another trauma added to them for long periods of time because they were never taught the ability to de-escalate. So now we have other traumas that we have had to deal with. Because sometimes the trauma starts when you look. In school, they say you got behavioral problems, and all they do is send you to the counselor's office, send you to the principal. When I was coming up, they fired you up. They had big patterns. It's like talking about that big. What? Oh yeah, you think you gonna act up? Okay, we got this right here. Now this is gonna impact some trauma too. Yeah, we gonna, you think, yeah, y'all think something wrong with him? When he see this make him de-escalate. You know what I'm saying? So they had ways and means to try to de-escalate trauma, but in fact it was causing more trauma. Why? Because you may not even been a culprit. Somebody picking on you. Somebody treating you in some type of way. So you got to respond. Why? Because there's nobody there to get your back. Nobody there to really understand really what's going on. So the best way to deal with you is we're going to forcefully, we're going to put fear in you. And what that does, it starts to building up other things, other energy. So when you explode on somebody, you know, say, where all that come from? It came from when I was 5 years old. I seen that paddle. That paddle, when I got older, I seen something similar to it, and it was a trigger. So when it was a trigger, I said, I better get on first. Before I get hit with that, I better get on first, because I know what may be coming next. So now we understand that. Now, trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event. Can somebody cut down their, ain't not my phone. No, that's it. Can somebody, you know, we want to stay focused right inside of the framework that we operate. It says, we want to look at the triggers, because that's what we're speaking about. Signals act as triggers of possible danger. We all got different triggers. We all got things that we really get wound up about when we see it or when we perceive that we're going to see it. And some of us have triggers that had to come about by social situations that we found ourselves in. Got triggered. You know, I know last time we spoke, people were saying, I don't like to be crowded around by people. I don't like to walk in crowds. Trigger, based upon what we've been at in life. They trigger. I don't want nobody behind me. Somebody might say, why you keep looking behind me? Because there's people back there. And people that ain't been where you've been sometimes, they don't understand what people in back of you could mean. You know, it's a trigger to you. Like, man, what they back there for? Why you keep looking back? Because you don't know what's in back. Could end up in front, or it could end up in your back. You know, so your mental mindset is like that. You know, and you feel safe when you can look back at them and see who it is. You feel safe. That's your safety zone. You ain't getting ready to let down your guards. Why? Because you didn't see the result of so many other things happen. You know, so somebody running, that may be a trigger to you. Somebody just running, and you are stopping your track, and you looking at it. They running. What they running for? I don't know, but I'm gonna analyze it. I don't know why they running, but I'm gonna pay attention to that. I'll let you die. You know. So we have a number of different triggers: sights, sounds, and smells. Sight, sounds, and smell triggers too. Think of that. You smell something a certain way. All this doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but it can still be triggered. I was talking with a boy yesterday, and he was saying people have get-togethers, and people, you know, since marijuana is legal, people just smoke weed. But you got children around, and people act like they avoid a secondhand smoke. This is worse than cigarettes when you was coming up as a child. Now you got all this exotic marijuana. You got children around, and you just smoking and blowing, and somebody say something to you about it. You get offended because somebody is trying to educate you on secondhand smoke, and it's going to be a trauma to the child.